Hello YouTube Pipers, Double O Pipe here, aka Rick. Third day in a row. Quite the surprise. No, I just wanted to come on and say a couple of things. I was going to try this 10th anniversary Champagne Perdomo Reserve. The cigar yesterday that I was smoking, it started out okay, but the burn was uneven and the taste wasn't that good toward I only got to about right there, and I just poured water on it and threw it in the trash. I wasn't crazy about that one. The first one, the first day, I liked that one. That might be too much, I don't know. What you think? Is that too much? And it was a little bit more round than the first one I had, so that biting on the end, it made it real yuck. Now, I filled this up yesterday, left it alone all night. Let's see how it does. It's not going to do it all. That's a bummer. I have to be quiet here because I need to concentrate. Man, right off the bat, that one's better than both of the other two. Yeah. Yeah, I like that one. Off the bat, I like it. Now, what it's going to be like as it burns down, I don't know. Okay. I have a little news about the stories that I've asked y'all to do. I have 12 people down who have said they are going to tell a story and send a VR. That retrohale's not so hot. Not like the pipe. Still learning. And, man, it's like smoking a cigarette. You got those little bits of tobacco on your tongue. Brings back the old days of camels. I don't know how I could have cut that any smaller, though, because I just had a little tiny bit. Anyway, I had 12 people who have told me they are going to send a VR, and I've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that I watched this morning. I went through all 12, and these 5 have done it. Let's see. At any rate, I would like to do something different from what I originally said. I originally said I wanted to write all the names down and put it in a hat and draw from the hat, but that's not quite fair, I don't think. What I would like to do is ask everybody to watch these as they come up and to send me a note to let me know what you think. And let's go with a star. From 1 to 5 stars as to what you think of the story. And I'll write those names down with the stars by them, what your decision is on that. And then we'll go with the one with the most stars. How's that sound? Does that sound better than just drawing out of a hat? I can't think of how to make it any more equal for everybody. In a contest, there's got to be one winner. I'm trying to think what that taste is. And do they call it champagne because it's the better quality tobacco that they're using in this? I had 2 of these. One was in a tube, and this one was like this. At any rate, I'm going to go ahead and see about taking this off. I think you're supposed to let it burn at least to that, but they made a big wrapper on this thing. And part of the leaf came off. Look at that. When I took it off, the leaf tore off. That ain't right. Oh well. Got my ashtray over here. Didn't have an ashtray yesterday. I remember in grammar school, I can't remember what grade it was. It might have been 5th. I think it might have been 5th. One of my friends and I were riding around on a bike. We both had a couple of quarters in our pocket. And at this particular drugstore in our area, they had a cigarette machine outside. Cigarette machine. Nobody watching over it. My friend said, "Hey, why don't we go over there and get us some cigarettes and go smoke them?" I said, "I don't know. That's supposed to be something left to adults. We ain't supposed to do that." He said, "Nobody's there. Nobody's looking. See? Look around. Ain't nobody looking." I said, "Yeah, that's true." So we walked over to the machine, dropped our bikes to the side. He went first, put in his quarter, because they only cost $0.25, these packs of cigarettes. I can't remember what he got, but I know I got Pell Mell. Red package. Oh, man. You got to chomp on that and not chomp on that edge right there. Your teeth slip off. So anyway, he got his pack and put it in his pocket, and I got my Pall Malls and put them in my pocket, or Pall Malls. I can't remember how we pronounced it now. That package was red with white writing on it. Pall Mall cigarettes. No warnings on them, other than the fact that minors were not supposed to buy them, and we were definitely minors. Put them in our pockets, got our bicycles, picked them up, and jumped on them, and took off down the road. So he said, "Let's go to your house." I said, "Okay." Well, see, nobody was home at my house. Both my parents worked, so this is when we were living in a little pink house about 2 doors down from my grandparents. This was about the time that Clyde had found out about girls, so he didn't want me around. Man, I tell you what, he found out about girls, and that was it. He didn't want anything to do with me anymore. Boy, he liked the girls too, and they loved him. Man, that was the only thing that I never could get to rub off on me, is for the girls to like me as much as they liked him. I mean, he would go into the grocery store, and he went to the Piggly Wiggly a lot, especially when he was cooking. If he was cooking something, he'd go up there at least 3 times an hour just to pick up stuff that he needed to cook whatever he was cooking, because he didn't have it all. But there was young girls who were doing the cash registers, and he would walk up to them and he'd smile, that little twinkle in his eye, and they'd see both of those and they just melt. It was amazing. Man, did they love him. Anyway, back to us racing down the road, yelling back and forth to each other, wind blowing in our hair, because we had hair back then, blowing our hair all to the back as we were just forcing our pedals down. Taking off, boy, man, we were racing down the road because we had what we would consider contraband, because we had something that was not legal for us. So we lived, the 4 corners were all the municipal golf course where we lived. And we raced down that highway. And at the 4 corners of the golf course, we took a left and zipped up about just, about 10 yards and took a right. And then I don't know, maybe 20 yards, and we took a left. Racing down there. Man, I don't know if we had, I don't think we did. We didn't have playing cards in our wheels at that particular time. We weren't smart enough to know that. Past my grandmother's house, past the house with the guineas, past the empty field that was right there, and then zipped into the driveway where the pink house was. And something, I'll tell you right now, something I learned from a salesman is somebody that lives in a pink house, they'll buy anything. He was wrong about my dad, though. He wouldn't buy anything. But that's what he said, and we found that was pretty much true whenever I was trying to sell stuff door to door. Anybody that lived in a pink house would buy something. I don't think there's much door-to-door sales anymore. That's a new taste. That was quick. I don't know what it was, but it was different. Anyway, rode up into the yard, dropped our bikes as we always did. We didn't use kickstands. We just dropped the bike. And we went to the back of the house. so the neighbors wouldn't see us because neighbors were nosy. We had, my dad said a lady that lived across the street was, the name of the street was Lindbergh, and he called her the Lindbergh, what was it he called her? Lindbergh Express or something, I don't know. But he said, I hate it when I come home and she's staring out the window like that. she, she tattled on everybody. She was also the person that was on my grandmother's two-party line. That was back when we had 2 and 3 party lines. They were cheaper the more parties you had online. Private lines, you didn't find too many of those back in those days. See how that's burning a little bit. Well, that little knot right there is not doing so well, is it? But it's still a nice white ash, and it's still solid on there. It's not dripping all over. The other one started falling apart, that one yesterday. And it never did burn evenly. See, it's starting to burn up now. There you go. See it? So it's a little more evenly burning than the other. At any rate, we got to the back. He took out his pack of cigarettes and I took out mine. And we looked at them and we said, well, how do we get into these things? And then we saw the little band that was around there, and we took it and pulled it around, pulled off the cellophane that was on top. And I'd always seen my dad tear the corner evenly and then hit the pack on his hand like that so that a couple of cigarettes would come out. And you could pull one from those, probably 2, maybe 3 would come out. You could pull one of those out and stick it in your mouth. And I'm thinking that the Pall Mall they weren't filtered at that time. This was pretty much before filters became very popular. And he lit his up because I had gone in the house and gotten a box of matches. Because back in those days we had matches. These days people don't have matches like they did back in those days. Somebody with a lighter was, man, he was extra cool because he didn't have to worry about those matches. He could just break out that Zippo and click it, and he had a flame going because those Zippos were known for first light. Anyway, struck those matches on the box, got our flame going, and got that thing lit. And I was going. He said, Ricky? I said, what? He said, you're not smoking that cigarette. I said, I am too. Look. No. When you smoke a cigarette, if you're going to be a grown-up about it, you got to pull it into your lungs. You got to go. Obviously, this kid had been smoking for a while because it just went down smooth for him. No problems whatsoever. And it came out his nose. And I looked at him and I said, really? You got to do that? Because I never really took any notice of what my dad was doing, you know. I just saw him and I thought he was pulling on it and just blowing the smoke out. Well, no. I wasn't as observant as I should have been, I reckon. So I said, okay, I'll try that. And I went, and my eyes nearly bugged out of my head, and my lungs revolted, and that smoke came gasping out of my mouth. And I was choking and gagging. And I said, that's no good. That's no fun. You can't be serious about that. He said, yeah, those first few, you're going to have a problem, but you got to get over those so that you can be a grown up, you know? You got to be. That's the only way you can be a grown up. You got to smoke. Everybody smoked. Well, I sat there and I kept doing that and I kept gasping and coughing and just nearly gagging. And I got one finished and he said, okay, you got to strike up another one so you can get used to this. If you're going to be a man, you got to be used to this. I said, oh, okay. I put another one in my mouth and I struck that match, got my flame up there, and I was shaky at this particular time because I think the nicotine was maybe getting to me and that flame wouldn't hold still, but I was sucking it on into the tobacco tube and pulling that smoke in and still gagging. And I was beginning to not feel quite so bad about pulling it into my lungs, but I was beginning to feel a little green around the gills. And he looked at me and he laughed. He thought that was so funny. So I smoked this one down, pulling it into my lungs and breathing it out. Finally, I got it to come out of my nose, and I thought I was hot stuff, but I wasn't feeling all that good. So as I inhaled for the last time, I threw it down in the grass, bent over, and just threw everything that I had eaten that day up into the grass. Oh, God, was I sick. And my buddy standing there just laughing at me, laughing at me. I thought that was the funniest thing in the world. uh, so he said, I'm going to leave you. I'm going home. I'm taking my cigarettes with me. I just waved. I wasn't feeling good enough to say anything. I can't distinguish the tastes or anything, but it's mellow. And Paladin Piper's always saying creamy. I could say that, though I don't know what creamy means, but I guess it's that mellowness across the tongue. Other than these camel bits. At any rate, after I kind of got over being sick, I said, I'm not doing that again. And I opened up that pack and I just tore those cigarettes up, threw them in the weeds behind the house, and they balled up that thing because I didn't want my parents to know. Threw that in the woods. When my mother came home, she said, Ricky? Yes. I knew right away. I knew right away that I was probably going to get a beating. She said, you've been smoking? I couldn't lie to my mother. Never could. Yes'm. Yes'm, I have. She said, I'm going to tell your daddy when he gets home. You'll see what happens with you. You know you're not supposed to do that. That'll stunt your growth. Little did she know I wouldn't get more than 5'5" anyway. So I sat there thinking about my dad coming home after work. When he came home, my mom went up to him and talked to him real quietly, and he looked at me, gave me that look, and I just sat there. I knew it was coming. And he came in and he said, "I understand you've been smoking, son." Yes, sir. Well, what do you think of it? But I didn't like it at all. I threw up all over in the backyard. He said, you think you learned a lesson?" I said, "I think I did learn a lesson, yes." He said, "Okay. How many of those cigarettes you got left?" I said, "None." He said, "You smoked the whole pack." I said, "No, sir. I only smoked two." He said, "Well, where's the rest of them?" I said, "I tore them up, threw them in the weeds in the back of the house so you wouldn't know that I had them." He said, "You know, boy, sometimes I don't think you think straight." I said, "What do you mean, Daddy?" He said, "You could have given me those cigarettes and I could have smoked the rest of them." Hmm. So he was more mad about the fact that I had torn up those cigarettes that would have saved him a quarter. Too funny. Sometimes you never knew about my dad, what he was going to do or say. I got 3 whoopings from him. And they were no fun, believe me. And he always started out by saying, "This is going to hurt me more than it is you." And I looked at him and I was thinking to myself, "You must be crazy, old man, because you couldn't hurt like I'm going to hurt." I didn't understand what he meant. And then whenever he would finish spanking me and I was crying my eyes out, he'd say, "If you don't stop crying, I'm going to give you something to cry about." So you had to stop crying. You couldn't keep crying because he'd turn you over his knee again. I was always able to stop crying, though, whenever he said that. Smoking. That was a rite of passage for us back in those days. Today, kids can't even hear the word cigarette without making a face like, "Ew, what's wrong with you?" That's what my grandkids said whenever my daughter told them that I was making these videos. And they said, "He smokes in them?" Ew. Man, how things have changed. Wow. Okay, good cigar. I like this one. I'm going to see how much I can smoke it down. And see how the flavors mingle and change. Contest is on until the 15th. I'm asking all of you to please watch them and decide on a 5-star level what level star you think it is. And I will take all that information in and figure out who wins. There can only be one winner, though. I guess if we tie, I'll have to watch whoever ties. I have to watch theirs a couple of times to see which one I think is the better. Mm. This has gone on way longer than I anticipated. All right, thank you. No pipe today. Cup of chaw. But my new journey in cigars. I like this one. I'll have to mark this one down. Take care of yourselves. Till the next time. God bless you. Bye-bye.